Yes, mates, how's it going? My name's Lee, and welcome back to the FPL Punk YouTube channel, where we try to dominate FPL one game week at a time. So today we'll rank transfer targets in a pyramid, starting at the very top with priority numero uno. If you only have one transfer, this is the player you should be looking at. Look all the way down to the differentials and the punts. If you enjoy FPL, please subscribe to the channel. Anyway, let's rock and roll.
Be strong.
So there's only one player that can make the S tier rank, and that accolade has gone to none other than Heung-min Son, 9.6 million midfielder, playing for Spurs, 36.5% old, got sold quite a lot last week, went in with a mega haul with a 2 assists with a 1 goal, we know he's on penalties, 113 points this season, 7.1 per game, 10 goals, 4 assists, 0.4 expected goals, 0.23 expected assists per 90. What more can we say about him that hasn't already been said? He's been mainly playing as a number 9. He did play out wide against Newcastle. Absolutely tore Trippier to shreds. We don't know if he's going to play left wing or up front. I think he's in good form right now. I don't think it really matters where he plays. I do think he's going to play more number 9, to be honest with you. I think that was just a very fixture-specific up against Trippier kind of situation. I wouldn't read much more into it than that. He's dangerous everywhere he plays. It doesn't really matter. And they've still got decent fixtures coming up. They've got fixtures with the likes of Forest, Everton, Brighton, Bournemouth in the next 4. That's just before he goes off to the Asia Cup. I can see some returning in like majority, if not all, of those games. So if you have sold him, I'd maybe try and think about how you can get him back. If you are considering selling Haaland, take Haaland down, upgrade anybody else to Heung-min Son. I think that's a very reasonable kind of thing to be thinking of. I don't know why people sold him. There's maybe some injury news, but if you haven't got him, I think you do need Heung-min Son. Moving on down to the A tier, and this isn't quite just high enough to be S tier. If you already got some, I think you can easily move on to someone like a Solanke or a Porro in the A tier. But the player I'm going to highlight is Pedro Porro in this A tier. 5.4 million defender playing for Spurs, 16.2% owned. He's so important to the way Spurs play. Reminds me a little bit of João Cancelo from Man City a few seasons ago, involved in quite a lot of what they do. Obviously, same with Son, got Forest, Everton, Bournemouth, Brighton in the next 5. I can see a lot of people jumping on this. This is a transfer that I've already made. I've already gone Mark Gahey to Pedro Porro, and I caught the price rise. I think it just makes a little bit of sense. He's got 60 points this season. Not a lot, but they haven't kept a lot of clean sheets recently. He's averaging 4 points per game. He's got 0 goals and 6 assists, and his per 90 stats is 0.1 xG and 0.21 xa. Like I said, Spurs haven't kept a clean sheet in the past 5 or 6. Probably a little bit of sloppiness, like a bit of a lack of focus and concentration. The game against Newcastle just gone. We're 4-0 up with a few minutes to go. You can see it's a really kind of poor goal in my opinion. I think the clean sheets will come, and as long as he maintains his goal involvement and his attacking output, I think he's going to be an absolute monster. At 5.4 million, I think you could do a lot worse than going for Pedro Porro in defence. Alongside Porro, we've got Dominic Solanke, 6.6 million forward, playing for Bournemouth, 9.4% owned. A little bit higher than I thought he was going to be, but that's just one of those. They've got decent short-term fixtures, Bournemouth, with the likes of Luton, Forest in there, and then they get a little bit harder, and they've got some decent ones after that as well. So Solanke is very much a short-term punt. If you think Haaland's going to be out, going down to a Solanke would make a lot of sense from that point of view. Looks like he's probably going to be on penalties. Bournemouth are playing very, very well. I think he'll be heavily involved in the goals, but it's one of those things where when talismanic teams play well, they're less reliant on that one person. Goals kind of get spread around. So although I think Bournemouth are doing better, it's not all going through Solanke. The likes of Tavernier and a few other players are playing really well, but I do really like Solanke as a kind of mini differential forward and player especially, and they've got some decent short-term fixtures, so like I don't hate the transfer at all. If you are tempted to transfer Haaland out, like I said, I don't mind going for someone like Solanke. He's not a bad shout in my opinion. Moving one tier down to the B tier, this is the decent buys. Not good, not bad, just decent for now, and there's a few different reasons why. The player I want to highlight at this tier is none other than Ollie Watkins. 8.5 million forward, playing for Villa, 39.9% owned, massively owned for a team like Villa. 99 points so far, 6.2 points per game, 8 goals, 9 assists, 0.52 xG and 0.11 expected assists per 90. He's been so consistent all season. a lot of managers, myself included, transferred him out a few weeks ago, thinking that he might be injured. I went for Isaac, massive mistake. A lot of regret with the transfer, and I really want to get back to Watkins. Is it worth a transfer? Doing something like that, in my opinion, yeah. I think he's a better striker. He's playing in a better team, and he's a less minutes risk. And the longer the season goes on, particularly around this congested period, things are just so important to take into in account of. They've obviously got Man United away and this game week, but then after this, in game week 18, they've got Sheffield United at home. Really, really good fixture, and he's probably my number one captain pick for game week 18. So if you don't have a good captain pick for game week 18, Watkins might be your man, and you might try and think about how you can get him in this week and go that 1 week earlier, or maybe try and think about getting him in for game week 18, because I do think he's going to be heavily captained, and I think he'll probably be the number one pick for captaincy in that particular week. Either side of Watkins, we've got some defensive assets. I'll start with Romel first, very similar to Pedro Porro. Christian Romel, 4.9 million defender, playing for Spurs, 10.2% owned. A little bit higher, but I think that's because of his red card and people slowly getting back on Romel. He could have easily got sent off on the weekend, just gone though. So that you need to be careful with his ownership and kind of keep that in mind that he does get yellow cards, he does get red cards. But I think over the next few weeks, I think you'll start to see his price and his ownership rise. But what's great for Pedro Porro is the fact that Romel is back, because he plays on the right side defence. It allows Porro to go and do his thing. I think as long as Romel stays fit and he doesn't get any kind of suspensions, just really, really good for Pedro Porro. But what makes Romel special from any kind of point of view is, like, he's so good on the BPS, like he's so good in terms of statistics and passing. That usually ranks quite high up in the BPS, and he's usually there or thereabouts. So I just think he's a really solid option, and he's a bit more of a steady Eddie, where Pedro Porro is probably the explosive one, and he might get the goals and he might get the assists. Like, Romel's going to get you 6-7 points probably most weeks, and if you need that, if you can't quite afford Porro, I don't mind going with something like a Romel. Like, I think he's a reasonably option, particularly at 4.9, like less than 5 million. I think he's a very, very sensible option, and I can see why people might want to consider Christian Romel as opposed to a Pedro Porro. So the only goalkeeper to make the list is Bernd Leno, 4.7 million goalkeeper for Fulham, 15.3% owned. I do think there's a few better goalkeepers than him, but they're significantly more expensive. You get the likes of Alisson, who's just an unbelievable goalkeeper. You get Vicario from Spurs as well, but he's 5.2. Is worth 0.3 more than Romero, or would you have to go and get Pedro Porro for 0.2 million more? I don't think Vicario is worth 0.5 million more than Leno, in my personal opinion. They've obviously got Newcastle this week, but then they've got Bournemouth and Burnley the 2 games after that. They keep a decent amount of clean sheets. He's always involved in the saves and the bonus, just because of the way they play. He makes a lot of easy saves, so he always ranks quite well on the BPS. He's a solid keeper. They do keep clean sheets, like I said. And if you are looking for a goalkeeper, I think you could do a lot worse than looking at someone like Bernd Leno. Moving right down to the bottom of the pyramid, this is the C tier. Now, these aren't bad picks. These are just more kind of punts and differentials. And I really, really wanted to highlight the player in the bottom corner there, Raul Jimenez, 5.3 million forward, playing for Fulham, 2.1% owned. I never thought we'd kind of see him back to his best or anything even close to it, but he might be getting there, you know. 47 points so far this season. It's not a lot. I know that, but I'm going purely off recent form. 3.1 points per game, 4 goals, no assists, 0.31 XG, and 0.06 expected assists per 90. There's nothing more I would love to see than Raul Jimenez get back to his best. FPL legend. You know what I'm saying? Like I wish we could get back to that. And Fulham have still got a decent run of games. Obviously, same with Leno. They've got Newcastle on next to them, but then Bournemouth and Burnley. They've got a few hard games after that, but I think for his price point, you could easily drop him down to the bench and wait for the easy games to come back in, because they do have Everton in a few games' time as well. It does look like William went off with a knock, so it remains to be seen who is going to step up and take the penalties in the next few games. Now, it might be Andreas, but Raul Jimenez has taken penalties in the past for both Mexico and Wolves. He might get given penalties as well. That's all I'm saying. I think for the price, I think it's a really, really solid option that you really need to consider, especially if you're in the likes of Wildcard, or if you have got Haaland and you want to sell and you want to come right down. I think Raul Jimenez is worth 0.8 million more than Archer, who's 4.5. I think he's just considerably better, and he's just a solid first sub option every single week, and that's the beauty of him. And he's just an old school FPL legend. Like what more can you say than that? Potential starter, like solid first sub, FPL legend. Raul Jimenez. Moving across the C tier, Julian Alvarez, 6.9 million forward, 29.1% owned. He's a very sideways move. If you're thinking of moving off Haaland, a very easy move to start thinking about Julian Alvarez. I don't think he's been in great form. I don't rate him as highly as other people. But if Haaland isn't on the pitch, you've got the starting number 9 playing for the top attacking team in the league for less than 7 million. It's crazy to think about. He's on a lot of set pieces. He'll probably on penalties if Haaland doesn't play. It's just only if Haaland is injured or out. I think that's the only viable or the viable option to go down the Julian Alvarez route. I think there's any inkling that Haaland might play, I wouldn't touch it. That's the reason why I still think it's a punt. I still don't think it's a bad transfer, but with the blank coming up in game week 18, that's just something you need to keep in mind. And if you can manoeuvre your team around that point, and then I wouldn't mind going for Alvarez, not for Haaland, but the only solution for most people would be take Haaland down to Alvarez and move some funds around. I think unless you're doing that and you're confident Haaland isn't going to play, I don't think Alvarez is a bad shout. I just think there's better options out there, to be honest with you. I think the likes of Solanke and Watkins are just better options, personally. And if you want to go right down, I think Jimenez is even a decent shout, but to each their own, I suppose. Moving on to Richarlison, 6.6 million midfielder, playing for Spurs, 1.3% owned. It could be a real consideration, particularly when Son leaves for the Asia Cup. That could be a very easy sideways move to go from Son to Richarlison in game week 21, and you've got the starting striker for 6.6 million in a midfielder slot. Scary, mate. We all know what he can do. We know how frustrating he can be. If we can get even half of the Richarlison we saw on the weekend versus Newcastle, we know he can score goals. We just don't know what his temperament's like. It's just what he does sometimes. Is he worth a punt? Probably not right now, in my opinion. But could he be in 2 or 3 weeks' time? 100%. Just keep him on your radar. Just think about him. Just have him in the back of your mind, and he might become a consideration in the next couple of weeks' time. But they have still got decent fixtures coming up. They've still got the likes of Forest coming up as well. So might not be the worst idea in the world to go for someone like Richarlison this week. Have a think about it. I just don't know, do you? Last but not least, we'll move on to Tavernier. 5.4 million midfielder, playing for Bournemouth, 0.7% owned. Super differential player here. I thought about bringing him in last week, and I opted for Raheem Sterling instead. Obviously, Tavernier was the play. They've got a rate, and they've got a rate, a nice little run of fixtures now with Luton and Forest in there as well. I think he's that cheap where I think he's a better option right now than Palmer, because Palmer's on 4 yellow cards. I know Chelsea have still got decent fixtures, but I think Tavernier and Bournemouth are just playing so well. I would opt for Tavernier over Palmer right now, and particularly in that kind of price range of that 5.2, 5.5 million range. Solid pickup. Looks like he's on some set piece as well. I just really like him as an option, and he is a punt because we don't know when this great Bournemouth run is going to end. Could it continue for 3 more games, and could Tavernier get another 25 points? Maybe. Leave a comment down below if you think Tavernier is going to go massive. Right, mates, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. So today we made a transfer tier pyramid of all my top transfer targets game week 17. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment down below. Peace and love.